Hi, this is Rabbi Aharon coming to you today from the Chut Shel Chesed Yeshiva in Jerusalem, Israel, under the direction of our beloved teacher and spiritual guide, Rabbi Shalom Arush Shlita. The title of today's short mini-lesson is Being There. And a thought came to me in the middle of the Chagim. For those of you who are Baal Teshuvas and who were around during the 70s and who went to movies, you probably remember an old movie with Peter Sellers called Being There. It's about a man who's simple-minded, very simple-minded. He's a gardener. All he knows is gardening, what he sees on TV, what he sees in the movies. Today, I'm sure they would have expanded that to what he sees on the internet. Anyway, to make a long story short, because he looks good on the outside, because he dresses well, people expect him to be something very special. When he says something, they always think it's very, very deep. If he'd say, for example, it's time for us now to water the garden. We must always remember to water the garden. That it would, they would say, oh, this is so deep that he has thought of something like this. To water the garden. Wow, that is really something special. Well, it wasn't something special. What he meant was, it's time to water the garden. It was very simple. And to make a long story even shorter, by the end of the movie, people are so impressed with this person because of how he looks and what he's done that they are thinking about making him a candidate for to be president of the United States. Why do I bring this up? Well, we just went through a Chag, and we did a lot of davening. A lot of davening. I see people, and they're davening, and they're davening, and they're davening, and they're davening. But I'm going to tell you something. For those of us who've been around a while, many of us will know this. When you get to the end of a lot of prayers, you think to yourself, wow, I don't even remember saying that prayer. The reason we say this is because we were not being there. We were somewhere else. Our body was there. We're shachaling, we're praying. The words are coming out of our mouth. But up here where it really counts, where the connection is made to the creator of the universe, we're not there. Where are we? Oh, we're grocery shopping. We're thinking, let's see, eggs and bread. I could use some cheese too. Or we're thinking, we're going to have lunch today with the Epsteins. They're really nice people. I can't wait to be with them. These are normal thoughts. They just drift in and out of the transom of our mind. But what do? They take us away from Hashem. Now, I'm talking about the type of praying you do in shul. I'm not talking about hitbodedut. And this, by the way, is one of the reasons why hitbodedut is so very important. It's a conversation between us and our Creator. Nobody gives us the words. We have to think of the words, which means we have to be present in that moment to be able to think of it. That's why it's so important. But we cannot neglect the 3 timed prayers that we do every day. They are equally important. They have been given to us by the sages, and we are told this is what we need to properly communicate with Hashem. Why are they so important? Well, there's 2 reasons that appear even more so than any others. One, when you're praying, think of it as a string that stretches from here to here. The higher your connection to Hashem, the higher the string, the more likely your prayers are to be heard and answered. Also, they're stronger. 1 string, you could snap it. 10 strings, wind them around each other, it's much stronger. Now, you're not limited to being where you are. Your string goes to where the person in the room who has the highest level of connection to Hashem, that's where it goes, to a higher level. That's why it's so vitally important that when we are doing any of our prayers that we do, that we are, in fact, being there, that we are present in the moment, that we are not thinking about other things. We are thinking, in fact, that this is a prayer that brings us to closer to Hashem. If we had an appointment, if we had a meeting with an earthly king or an earthly president, it would be so important to us because it was so hard to get that we would have to be thinking all the time of what are we going to say. We'd be concentrating on this person, concentrating on making the right kind of impressions. I doubt seriously you would sit in front of the President of the United States or the Prime Minister of Israel if you had an audience with them and go, well, Mr. Prime Minister, what I was thinking about is what we should be doing is, no. You'd be right there. You know what you want to say. You'd be focused on him. Why? Because probably it was so hard to get that meeting. And maybe that's what the problem is here. It's so easy to get to Hashem any time of day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We can get to him at any time. And maybe that's why we don't appreciate it enough. So we need to think about it. Who are we talking to when we do our prayers? Where's our mind? Is it present? Are we being there? Or are we busy being someplace else, shopping or in a meeting or in a business thing? No, we want to be right there talking to Hashem. There's two other postscripts I want to put onto this today, and you'll forgive me, they have very little to do with being there. They do have to do with what we've talked about last week, what we read last week in the Torah. Very important. Two things that I really want to bring up because they are so important. One, Adam, when he was put into the Garden of Eden, was given what? Everything. Everything. He had access to everything. What did he have to do? Nothing. He had to tend the garden. Tending the garden was really not that difficult because the waters of different rivers ran through it. So there was not really much for him to do. All he had to do was do what he was told to do. So there was one thing, though, he couldn't do. He could not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That he was forbidden from. That Chava was forbidden from. And when he ate from it, what did he do? He blamed Chava, his wife. The wife that you gave me. By the way, that was the reason why while he was naming the animals, Hashem let him name them all so he could see. They all had pairs. He had no pair. He had to ask for his mate, and he did. And when he said that, Hashem said, you asked for her. Of course, she blamed it on the snake, and we all know that's why he crawls on his belly now, and that's why he gets everything he needs, because Hashem doesn't want to hear from him anymore. But the point of this whole thing is that they had access to absolutely everything except for one thing, and they couldn't prevent themselves from going for the one thing. Now, we talked about before how important it is to have ratzon, but ratzon that is properly directed. It is not proper to have our ratzon directed in, how come I can't have a Mercedes? My neighbor's got a Mercedes. Why can't I have a boat? He's got a boat. That's not the ratzon we're supposed to have. The ratzon is to get closer to Hashem. That's the ratzon we need to have. We need to have that ratzon because it's what brings us closer to Him. But we are the same way as Adam was. We always want what we can't have. So let's try something different this week. Instead of complaining about what we don't have, let's be thankful for what we do have. I have a friend who over Sukkot almost lost his 2-year-old son. Thank God the boy is okay now, but can you imagine the trauma of something like that? Do you know what he's so glad for? Do you know what he's so thankful for? That his son is alive and is fine. He has no other earthly desires at this time. Because that brought it close to him. That brought it home to him. The need to have your family being well, for you to be well. These are such important things that the other things pale by comparison. Now, there's one other thing we do need to talk about, and I'm going to try to make it fairly short. But the sages ask, why does Hashem start the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis, by saying that He created the earth and the heavens and everything else that went along with it? Well, whenever the sages ask a question, you can be sure they have an answer to that question. It says that Hashem wanted to start in the very beginning to let people know that He created the earth. Therefore, He owns the earth. It belongs to Him. He is, in fact, for lack of a better word, the landlord. And He's given us, particularly the Jewish people, 613 points that we need to follow if we're going to keep it. But He did that because Rashi tells us that if sometime in the future, which actually happened, when the Jews came from Mitzrayim, from Egypt, to Israel, people would say they were bandits, that they stole the land because there were 7 other different groups living there, and they took it away from them. And he wanted to say, no, it's my land. I can give it to who I want. I can take it from whom I want. So for all those people who sit out there today and postulate as to what should they do about Israel, the answer is nothing. They should do nothing about Israel. It's not their concern. It's not their worry. The concern all stands with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with Hashem. He decides who gets the land, and he has obviously at this point given it to us. And as long as we take care of it, I doubt seriously that is going to change any. I had to put those in there, but keep in mind the most important thing of today's lecture is remember to always be there. Always be involved. Be present in the moment. Be involved in what you're doing. In your davening, in anything else you do regarding Hashem, in anything you do regarding your shul, your yeshiva, or your seminary. Be there. Listen. Pay attention. Do the things, the things that bring you closer to Hashem. Now, that having been said, everybody have a great week this week. A Chodesh Tov is a new month coming up on Friday and Saturday. Don't forget, it's a very important thing to honor the new month. So look forward to that. Enjoy that. Enjoy Shabbos when it comes up. And we'll talk again next week. Bezrat Hashem. Be well, my friends. All the best.